If I asked you what the difference is between yachts from 20 years ago and today, what would you say? Most of you would probably say technology, materials, or speed. You would be right, but something is missing. In this video, we are going to talk about what really changed between old and modern yachts. American maritime history is one of the best starting points for understanding the evolution of yacht design. After the Second World War, America experienced an unprecedented boating boom. Returning soldiers wanted to bring their seafaring skills into civilian life. Middle-class families with growing incomes began spending their weekends on the water. From the Chesapeake Bay to the San Francisco Bay, from the Great Lakes to the coast of Florida, sails were multiplying on every shoreline. But the boats of that era looked nothing like what we see today. Let us take the classic American yachts of the 1950s and 60s, the Hinckley Bermuda 40, the Alberg 35, the Pearson Triton, the Cal 40. These names are the cornerstones of American sailing culture. These boats were heavy. They had wide, full keels. They moved through the water slowly but with extraordinary steadiness. They were never at the top of any speed rankings, but their seakeeping abilities were outstanding. A Hinckley caught in a hurricane was a boat that could bring its owner home. That confidence was no accident. It was the result of calculated overbuilding and engineering shaped by years of experience. Every boat had a personality. A yacht coming out of the Hinckley yard on the coast of Maine could be distinguished from one built at Bristol in Rhode Island just by the way it sat on the water. These were not products rolling off an assembly line. Each one carried its own story. Now, let us look at what was happening below the waterline on these boats, because that is perhaps where the biggest revolution took place. In that era, the full keel was the standard design, a deep, wide, and heavy structure running from bow to stern underneath the hull. This design gave the boat tremendous directional stability. You could let go of the tiller, and the boat would hold its course. Even if you ran aground in shallow water, the hull could stay upright. But there was a significant cost. That massive surface area created enormous drag. Instead of slicing through the water, the boat was pushing it. Speed loss was inevitable. Starting in the 1970s, things began to change. An entirely different concept entered the scene called the fin keel, a thin, deep blade extending downward from the bottom of the hull, with a lead or iron ballast bulb at its tip. This design reduced drag dramatically. Boats suddenly got faster. Their angles against the wind became tighter. Their maneuverability increased. But they also lost something. The directional stability that those older boats carried was gone. A fin-keel boat was more agile and faster, but also more restless. It reacted more sharply to sudden wind changes. The helmsman had to stay alert at all times. And over the last 20 years, things have gone much further. Look at the America's Cup boats. There is no keel in the traditional sense anymore. Instead, there are hydrofoil wings. When these boats exceed a certain speed, they lift their hulls completely out of the water. They literally fly. They reach speeds of 80, even 90 kilometers per hour. 15 years ago, this would have looked like science fiction. But today, you can watch it live on your screens. Sail technology has undergone a transformation just as radical as what happened below the waterline. The sails on older yachts were sewn from cotton or linen canvas. Cotton sails took on a soft and beautiful shape in the wind. But when they got wet, they became significantly heavier. Over time, they would stretch and lose their form. At the beginning of every season, they needed to be re-sewn or undergo extensive repairs. Despite all that, the image of a cotton sail filled with wind remains one of the most iconic images in sailing to this day. With the widespread adoption of Dacron, sails became far more durable and better at holding their shape. But the real revolution came with laminated sails. Made from mylar, Kevlar, and carbon fibers, these sails show almost no deformation under wind load. Consider the 3DI technology developed by North Sails. These sails are not woven like traditional fabric. Continuous fibers are laid over a three-dimensional mold, and each section is individually optimized according to the load distribution expected in that specific area. The result is a sail that maintains a perfect aerodynamic profile under wind, an engineering marvel by any standard. How big is the performance difference? On the same course, in the same wind, a boat with modern laminated sails can travel 30 to 40% faster than one with cotton sails. That is an enormous gap. Masts have also undergone a quiet but profound revolution. Most older American yachts came with aluminum masts as standard equipment. Before that era, masts were made from spruce wood. They looked beautiful, but they were heavy and required constant maintenance. Aluminum solved many of those problems. It was light, strong, and needed minimal upkeep. It remained the standard for decades. But over the last 20 years, carbon fiber masts have completely changed the game. A carbon fiber mast weighs approximately 1/3 of an aluminum mast of the same size. What does that mean? Less weight up high means a lower center of gravity. The boat heels less, stays more balanced, and uses wind energy far more efficiently. The performance gain is noticeable not just in speed, but in the overall stability behavior of the boat. Ropes have also been part of this transformation. On older yachts, running rigging was largely made of hemp or polyester lines. Today, ultra-high-strength synthetic fibers like Dyneema and Spectra are used. These lines are stronger than steel wire of the same diameter but light enough to float on water. A thin Dyneema line that fits in the palm of your hand can withstand several tons of load. Deck layout and cockpit design are among the areas that have changed most fundamentally. On older yachts, everything was done by hand. Raising a sail, lowering it, trimming it, every maneuver required physical strength and skill. You pulled the lines with your hands. You turned the winches with the power of your arms. You felt the force of the wind in your palms and the direction of the waves through the resistance of the tiller. This physical connection was the most direct form of communication between you and the sea. On modern yachts, electric winches, hydraulic systems, and remote control units have eliminated much of that physical connection. On some high-end yachts, all sail controls can be managed from a panel in the cockpit. You press a button, and the jib furls. Another button unfurls the mainsail. Is it practical? Incredibly so. Especially for those sailing long distances with a small crew, it is a lifesaver. But the old salts of the sea will tell you that something has been lost. That sense of touch, that physical effort, that sweat, that direct connection. Navigation is perhaps the area where the most dramatic transformation has occurred. Old sailors used a compass and paper charts. To determine your position on the open ocean, you would measure the angle of the sun or stars with a sextant. You would calculate with logarithm tables. Sailors racing from Newport to Bermuda found their way across 1,000 kilometers of open ocean using nothing but these tools. That was a serious skill. A good navigator was the most valuable member of any crew. Today, GPS determines your position with an accuracy of a few meters. Electronic chart plotters display depth, current, wind, and tide information in real time. The AIS system brings all surrounding maritime traffic onto your screen. Radar lets you see every obstacle around you, even on foggy nights. Autopilot holds the boat on its set course for hours. A satellite phone allows you to call for help from anywhere on the planet. The sea has certainly become a safer place. Rescue operations happen faster. Communication is more reliable. Weather forecasts are far more accurate. But this technological comfort is slowly eroding the deep ocean literacy that older sailors possessed. Reading the weather from the shape of the clouds, feeling a wind shift on your skin, reading the current from the color of the water. These skills are now preserved by an ever-shrinking group of sailors. When it comes to living spaces, the superiority of modern yachts is beyond debate. The cabin interior of a 35-foot yacht from the 1960s was typically narrow, dark, and cramped. There were plenty of boats where you could not even sit upright in the forward cabin. The galley consisted of a single-burner gas stove and a small sink. The toilet was usually a simple manual pump marine head. Fresh water capacity was extremely limited. Hot water was nothing more than a dream. In today's yachts of the same length, a fully equipped galley, a separate shower stall, a hot water system, a refrigerator, and even air conditioning have become standard. A 40-foot modern sailboat can offer more living space than a 50-footer from 20 years ago. This was made possible particularly through the widening of the stern section and interior volume optimization. The wide stern platforms, the swim steps at water level, and the fold-out deck sections of modern yachts have completely redefined living space. The American market played a pioneering role in this shift. Brands like Catalina, Hunter, and Beneteau brought sailing to the masses. Their priority was not to build the fastest or most elegant boat. It was to produce boats that could get the most people on the water safely, with easy maintenance and simple operation. And they were extremely successful at it. Today, approximately 13 million people in America sail regularly. That number is incomparably higher than it was 40 years ago. But did this democratization come at a cost? In some sailing circles, the answer is yes. The old yacht culture was an apprenticeship system. Before going to sea, you learned to tie knots. You knew the points of sail. You could make basic repairs. Boat knowledge was acquired slowly, through experience, and sometimes through hard lessons. Today, you can take a weekend course, get a bareboat license, and charter in the Caribbean. That accessibility is a wonderful thing. But is the depth of the relationship with the sea the same? The answer to that question varies from person to person. So what about the question of durability? Were old yachts really stronger? This is a common belief, but it does not tell the whole picture. Fiberglass boats from the 1970s had excessively thick hulls. Manufacturers did not fully trust this new material and used extra material as a safety margin. Those boats were indeed nearly indestructible. But modern composite boats are designed far more intelligently. Exactly the right amount of material is placed in each area. No more, no less. The result is a lighter structure that is equally strong. The real issue with modern boats is not durability, but repairability. Repairing damage on an older fiberglass hull is a relatively straightforward job. But damage to a carbon fiber structure requires a far more complex and expensive repair process. This is a critical consideration for long-distance sailors. Repairing a carbon fiber hull in the middle of the Pacific is exponentially harder than repairing a traditional fiberglass hull. When we put all of this together, a clear picture emerges. Modern yachts are superior in every measurable parameter. They are faster, they are lighter, They offer more living space, they provide safer navigation, and they require far less maintenance. This is a technical reality that leaves no room for debate, but there are things that cannot be measured. When you walk along the waterfront in Newport or Annapolis and spot a 50-year-old yacht standing among rows of white fiberglass boats, your eyes are drawn to it. Why? Because that boat is telling a story. Every scratch is a voyage. Every stain is an adventure. Every repair mark is a tale of survival. Modern boats are perfect machines, but machines do not tell stories. The sea has not changed. The wind is still the same wind. The waves are still the same waves. What has changed is our relationship with the sea. And perhaps the real question is this: it is not about which boat is better. It is about which experience gives us more. That is all for today's video. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video for more content.